Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Bayonetta by PlatinumGames. The creator of games like Beautiful Joe and Devil May Cry has a new game on his resume, and with all the credit he's received from his past titles, Bayonetta is sure to garner some attention. With the same over-the-top ideology of Devil May Cry, and nearly the same feel of action, it seems like a way to easily hand over the reins of an already existing powerhouse franchise. There are some major differences that go into this brand new intellectual property. For one, they have swapped out the immensely popular Dante for a heroine pressed towards being a sex symbol. The humor is in a different league all its own as well. But are these changes a hindrance to the title, or does this change of venue benefit from a breath of fresh air? Bayonetta is mostly broken into two portions of storytelling. First, there are the flashback sequences. Bayonetta is a powerful witch who has lost her memories after waking at the bottom of a lake. 20 years later, she's still working on piecing them back. Together with several mortal allies, she ends up taking the battle into a more ethereal place, against angels. At set intervals within the game, Bayonetta is whisked away back into several points of her life before the lake, reliving moments that were once lost to her. There are so many things happening in these flashbacks, however, that sometimes it can be hard to keep track of everything. The forward-moving plot isn't much better. While there are certainly events happening, usually infused with a corny brand of humor, they don't add much to the story in progress, only helping to shape the events of the past. Instead, it's as if they use the main timeline of the game as a means to show off as many high-octane action sequences as possible. By the end of the game, things are wrapping up a little more, but can still be plenty confusing. There is also a good amount of required reading material that can be collected in-game to really understand the depth of the saga of Bayonetta and the Umbra Witches. If you're familiar with the controls of Devil May Cry, you'll feel right at home with Bayonetta. It has the same kind of high-octane action sequences that the older franchise has become known for, and Bayonetta is as meticulous in doling out the pain. She does so not just with her custom guns or long muscular legs, but also with her hair. That pretty much puts her on the same level of badass as Dante almost instantly. When fighting against demented angels, you'd likely need all the help you can get. For the most part, Bayonetta takes them on solo, thanks to a wide array of attacks at her disposal. Beyond just the combo attacks, though, she has access to magic that utterly destroys her enemies, leaving only disintegrated piles of goo in her wake. The puzzle sections of Bayonetta are a little on the weak side, and when they aren't too easy, they aren't explained enough for the player to clearly make sense of the situation. Coming off the success of the Devil May Cry series, a highly stylized visual presentation wouldn't exactly sound like a huge risk. But Bayonetta does, in fact, take a gamble. While Dante had an almost poetic way to paint the world with violence, Bayonetta leaves a layer of lust on everything she touches. The witch's more powerful attacks leave her scantily clad, if not entirely naked. As it turns out, her hair covers her body in addition to being a fairly useful weapon. The music is very poppy and bubbly, which seems at odds with some of the context of the game, except that the voice work and dialogue kind of go hand in hand with it. The game's sense of self and sense of humor may be a turnoff to some people who don't appreciate the way the game is presented. With a host of difficulties, some with immense differences compared to many other games, Bayonetta has something to offer to players of all levels of mastery. Some of the difficulties can only be unlocked by beating the game, calling on at least one more playthrough. In addition to this, there are plenty of collectibles and segments of the game that require almost perfect timing to ensure you garner the best ratings. Some of the more common collectibles are books that give some backstory to Bayonetta, and unlockable songs that you get from laying the smackdown on some of the game's bigger bosses. If you aren't into games like Devil May Cry, or even the ones like God of War, Bayonetta is not going to change your mind about the genre. In fact, the heavy stylization might hinder those who are looking for a mature-feeling story. However, if you can appreciate the prior work of developer PlatinumGames, like Mad World and some of the team's earlier work on Okami, you may be forgiving to this title. There are other flaws that you'll have to sift through, especially on the weaker PlayStation 3 iteration of the title, but if you're willing to have a laugh at Bayonetta, you might just enjoy yourself long enough to give it credit for its stronger points. That's Entertainment awards Bayonetta a score of 8 out of 10.